Have you ever stopped to think about what really separates a project that just gets done from one that's truly exceptional? You know, it's not just about hitting deadlines and staying under budget. The real secret sauce? It's quality. And in this explainer, we are going to dive headfirst into PMP Quality Management. This isn't just theory for an exam. This is about how to build things that actually work and last.
But let's be real for a second. The word quality gets thrown around constantly, right? Quality this, quality that. It can start to feel a little empty, a bit vague. So is it just some feel-good business buzzword? Well, when it comes to project management, the answer is a hard no. It is something you can measure, you can manage, and is absolutely vital for success. And today, we're going to pin it down with a rock-solid definition.
All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start by nailing down what project quality actually is. Then, we'll get into the philosophy behind it all. From there, we'll walk through the main three-step process, talk about why preventing problems is way better than fixing them, and finally, we'll peek inside the project manager's quality toolkit. Sound good? Let's jump in.
Okay, first things first. Before we can even think about managing quality, we all need to be on the same page about what it means. Honestly, getting this foundation right is everything.
Now, this is really the core of it all. The official definition of quality has two equally important parts. First, you've got conformance to requirements. That's the technical stuff. Did we build exactly what the blueprint said to build? But then you have fitness for use, and that's all about the customer. Does this thing we built actually solve their problem? You absolutely need both. Think about it. A smartphone that's built perfectly to spec, but the battery dies in an hour? Sure, it conforms to the requirements, but it's not fit for use. It's useless.
To make this even clearer, we have to talk about what quality isn't. First up, grade is not the same as quality. A simple, no-frills car that runs reliably for years is a high-quality product. A fancy luxury car that's constantly breaking down, that's low quality, no matter the grade. Next, precision is not accuracy. Imagine you're shooting arrows. Accuracy is hitting the bullseye. Precision is hitting the exact same spot over and over, even if that spot is way off to the left. You need both to be great. And finally, you have to avoid something called gold plating. This is a huge one. It's when you add extra features the customer never asked for. You might think you're adding value, but what you're really adding is cost, complexity, and risk. So the big takeaway here, stick to the plan.
Okay, so now that we have a solid definition, let's look at the philosophy, the mindset that really drives a quality-focused team. This is the why behind everything we do.
These 4 pillars are basically the bedrock of quality management. It all, and I mean all, starts with customer satisfaction. If your customer isn't happy, nothing else really matters, does it? To make that happen, we focus on prevention over inspection. It is always cheaper to stop a fire from starting than it is to put one out. Next, there's a commitment to continuous improvement, always asking, okay, how can we do this just a little bit better next time? And finally, none of this happens without management responsibility. Quality can't just be a line in an email. It has to be a core part of the culture, and that starts right at the top.
So, we've got the definition, we've got the philosophy, but how do we turn all that into something we can actually use on a project? Let's look at the practical framework. The whole thing breaks down into 3 pretty clear stages. Let's use building a house as an example. Step 1, plan quality. That's like creating the architect's blueprint. You're defining everything, what a good house looks like, what materials to use, all the standards. Then you have step 2, manage quality. This is also called quality assurance. This is like checking the process while the house is being built. Are the workers using the right techniques? Are the systems working? It's all about preventing problems before they happen. And finally, step 3 is control quality. This is the final walkthrough. You take your blueprint and you inspect the finished house to make sure it matches. You're verifying the final product.
And that brings us to a super important distinction that trips a lot of people up. Quality assurance versus quality control. QA, which is that managed quality stage, is all about being proactive. It's about looking at your processes and making sure they're solid enough to create a good result. QC, from the control quality stage, is reactive. It's about inspecting the finished product to find defects. So you can think of it like this. QA builds confidence that you'll get it right, while QC finds the mistakes after they've been made. You really need both, but the better your QA, the less you'll have to rely on QC. So, if you're looking for a simple way to remember this whole flow, here it is. This is the mantra. You plan it, you build it right by assuring your processes, you verify it to make sure it meets the standard, and then you improve it for next time. It's a really powerful and simple cycle.
Now, let's zoom in a little bit more on that idea of prevention. Because look, in the real world, things go wrong. It happens. But how a team responds to those problems, well, that tells you everything you need to know about their commitment to quality.
There's a definite hierarchy here, a ladder of responses. So let's say you find a typo on your company's website. The most basic response is defect repair. You just fix the typo. Done. A better response is corrective action. You fix the typo and you figure out why it happened. Maybe you realize the spell checker on your software was turned off. But the gold standard, the best response, is preventive action. That's where you put a new process in place. Like from now on, 2 people have to review every post before it goes live to make sure that kind of typo just never happens again. See the difference? That's the most effective and ultimately the cheapest way to manage quality. And this is one of the coolest tools for verification and control. It's called a control chart. Basically, it helps you see the difference between normal, predictable variation in a process, what we call common cause variation, and a real problem that needs to be fixed, a special cause. As long as those little dots stay between the upper and lower lines, your process is stable. Everything's fine. But the second a point jumps outside those lines, that's like an alarm bell going off, telling you, hey, you need to go investigate this.
So we've covered the what, the why, and the how of quality management. Now for the last piece of the puzzle. What are the actual instruments, the specific tools our project manager uses to make all this happen?
These right here are the classic 7 basic quality tools. And the great thing is, you don't need a PhD in statistics to use them, but they are incredibly powerful. A cause and effect diagram helps you brainstorm the roots of a problem. A flowchart helps you literally see your process. A check sheet is just a simple way to collect data. The Pareto diagram is awesome. It helps you find the 20% of causes that are creating 80% of your problems. A histogram shows you how your data is distributed. We just saw the control chart, which tracks a process over time. And a scatter diagram can show you if there's a relationship between 2 different things. These are the absolute workhorses of quality management.
So here's the bottom line. Knowing the plan, manage, control framework, that's essential. That's half the battle. But real mastery, becoming a true quality pro, comes from knowing how to skillfully use these tools. Knowing which tool to pull out for which problem, and how to actually read the story that the data is telling you. That's the game changer.
And that is the perfect place to leave it for today. We've laid the groundwork, but the real power, as we said, comes from mastering those tools. So if you're ready to take that next step, make sure you subscribe to Infinite Business Dynamics, because in our very next explainer, we are doing a deep dive into each one of those 7 quality tools, plus we're going to look at a powerful process mapping technique called CPOC. It's time to go from just knowing the theory to actually making quality happen. Thanks so much for watching.